Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on unleashing creativity with Microsoft Copilot and AI. We are in each other's company for the next 45 minutes and I'm really excited to show you how Copilot can fuel your creative processes from content creation to customer insights and beyond. My name is Sam Cooper. I'm the head of marketing here at Changing Social. And with me today, I have my colleague and head of strategy and change, Ed Sheath, who you will meet in just a moment. I will pop both of our emails in the chat for you now, and please do feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. And finally, I will be monitoring the Q&A for you today as well. A quick note about housekeeping, in particular, a couple of options that may help during this webinar. So to enable live captions, click on the settings icon, then select captions/subtitles. Choose your preferred language there. And then for questions, click the chat icon and ask a question. And then you can decide if you would prefer to use your name or remain anonymous. And then to send that, click the plain icon. But for now, I will pass you over to Ed to get us started with today's session. Over to you, Ed.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sam. Welcome, everyone. Hope you're having a good day so far. So as we mentioned, we've got about 45 minutes, some of which at that time we hope to dedicate to some questions. So please feel free to keep those questions flowing in and Sam will keep me honest, interrupt me and share those questions where most appropriate. We will also have time at the end of this webinar to run through some further questions as well. So without further ado, let's jump on in. For those who haven't met me before, I lead our strategy and change team here at Changing Social. Been here just over 2.5 years and prior to that, a decade at Microsoft. More interestingly, I have a 9-year-old golden retriever who keeps himself in trouble and keeps me out of trouble. And if there's anything going on outdoors, I try and get involved, although currently a slightly dull grey raining evening here in the UK, so not overly fond of jumping outside. The good news, there are only 3 slides to get through before we get hands-on with this demonstration. You will be seeing Copilot live and in the wild, especially applied to the idea of marketing. Now, for those with keen eyes, you will have spotted one thing on the upcoming slides that refuses to update. Those who spot it and put it in the chat will unlock 10 points. So if you see the slightly and on purpose error, feel free to put it in the chat and I will award points at the end of the webinar. With that being said, let's dive in and get cracking on Copilot, which is what you've all come here to take a look at. First things first then, we've got the magical multicolored Copilot logo bang in the middle of the screen. If you're ever in doubt if the application or location has Copilot, look for this fantastic logo straight in the middle, and it's highly likely you will be able to unlock some new features, functions, and creativity with the use of Copilot. You'll see there's a bunch of applications around the outside, some of which you'll be familiar with. We've got PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, those good old staples of the Office offering. You also have Edge, Outlook, Whiteboard, Forms, Loop, Teams, and a few others. We will see the vast majority of these in action today. And when we're using these applications, we can think about it in 4 main areas. The reason being that Copilot has a wealth of information at its fingertips. The large language model helps us boost everything we do across these platforms, and it works quite nicely in Edge. And we'll see some quite fun ideas when it comes to Edge, marketing, and I've even got a tiny little bit of homework you can take away and try when you've got a spare 30 seconds, just to give yourself a little bit of a smile on your average Thursday or whenever you're watching this recording. Search, summarize, ideate, and create. These are the 4 primary areas in which Copilot can support you straight away and out the gate. It can help you search for materials internally and externally. It can then surface things and ideas that you may not have had in your mind when you searched. And we see that in the demonstration. That sounds a bit vague, but a quick example is preparing a handover and how search can make that handover material so much more powerful and include items you may well have forgotten about or the detail and level that you may have overlooked initially. Summarizing information is a personal favorite, especially if we are managing large statements of work or recently running through our marketing brochure and our new SEO report. Now, I am not the best when it comes to SEO, as Sam will well vouch. However, using Copilot to understand the data and get more feedback in the market generally has helped me from a marketing perspective get a much more detailed idea and analysis of the materials we have. And then ideate and create. The marketing side of me has come out quite strong in this demonstration. I hope to show you 2 or 3 really key ideas that you can take away and explore when it comes to creating fresh content, to driving the traffic towards yourselves in a higher, more frequent manner, or even internally from a communications and employee engagement standpoint. What can you do that will really start to market your service, your team, or your product internally as well? And then finally, the creation we'll see trickle in throughout the entirety of the demonstration. Through this, you will see me use a series of prompts. Prompts unlock the power of Copilot, and the better you get at prompting, which I will be completely honest, takes practice, the better you get at it, the easier your life with Copilot will become, and you will have a much more fruitful and enjoyable experience as the content and context that Copilot is producing for you becomes more and more tailored. Microsoft have done a really good job of putting together the core concepts of a good prompt. They do not have to be used every single time in every single prompt, but let's think of the goal we want to produce. 3 bullet points for a meeting with my client specific to their brand campaign. Think about the source. Would you like it to focus on emails or Teams in this particular instance to extract the key information? And be specific with your time. There is a high likelihood that a client and or a project has run for a while. And if you get specific with your time, last 2 weeks, last 1 month, since January, specifically October to November last year, get specific with the time frame, and the material it will extract will be of more value. And then finally, the expectations. What is it you need from Copilot to help you get that started for 10, enhance the quality you've already got, and build upon the success you already have at your fingertips? Be precise of the expectation that you want from that prompt you put in. Another just passing top tip, if you are handy with a keyboard, if you press Windows button and H for hotel, it will unlock your microphone dictation for your laptop or your PC. And something I've been using certainly over the last 3 to 4 weeks, Windows H unlocks the microphone and I can dictate my prompts. And I find it easier to speak a prompt than I do type it. And I think that's because of the conversational way that Copilot interacts with us on a large language model. I find it much easier to speak my prompt than necessarily to type it. Right, so bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just jump back across, move some of these controls out of the way, and we shall continue. Okay, great. So prompts unlocks the power of Copilot, and the more specific you get with your prompts, the better. The final top tip, the dictation is one. The other is to remember that Copilot can also be your prompt engineer. If you are struggling to think of the prompts you need, ask Copilot to generate 3 or 4 prompts that someone might use to do X or Y or Z. Using Copilot to be your prompt engineer has to be probably the best thing from my perspective for the first couple of weeks, as it refines the language, the style, and the construction of the prompts. And you can even ask it to coach you on the prompts that you create. Finally, and it wouldn't be a webinar without a call to action, this screen will come up one more time at the end. It's the last slide before the live demonstration starts. Please feel free to scan that QR code. We have a host of information available to you and at your fingertips. And hey, if you fancy a follow-up, I'm more than happy to have a chat. With that being said, we will dive into a live demonstration and show some capabilities when it comes to marketing. Please note, I am using Copilot live. This is a full-on demonstration, and occasionally I may have to refresh Copilot, start a new chat, or refresh the page. I would say 99% of the time I have no problems, but it wouldn't be a demonstration without a slight hiccup. Let's see how we get on. So I'm going to close down the PowerPoint and we will be immediately greeted with this copilot.microsoft.com. You can, of course, access Copilot through Microsoft Teams. And if you jump into Teams and you have a license assigned, you will see it on the left-hand side of the rail. If you don't, go to the three dots. And we'll see this in a moment, but go to the three dots, type in M365 chat, and that will take you through to Copilot. You'll notice, those who are keen of eyes, we have work and we can flip to web. We will go backwards and forwards between them today, and we will see what we're doing and how. If your organization has web turned on, then that's great. You have the power to use it, and you can also include the web plugin so that it will find materials relevant to your question in this experience. Now, it is pulling in information for you, not pushing out your information. Just to be clear on that, it's pulling in information and not pushing out your information. If in doubt, take a look at Microsoft Copilot Privacy, and you'll see a lot more in terms of the way it operates and is configured. Now, I'm going to start off with a couple of basic Copilot tips and tricks. Then we will step things up into creation. Then we will take that up a notch again and see how powerful Copilot can help specific to the concepts of marketing. And then we will step into some more of the creative and analytical elements as we move through. Straight off the bat, I just want to show a couple of quick tips. The first, you'll see you're greeted with a few prompts straight out of the box. I strongly suggest clicking on these. It has some quite interesting information and you'll suddenly find a bit of value, especially when it comes to show me my next 30 minutes that's free, provide me the next update that I have with a colleague or a person, or if you want to see a few more, click on view prompts and start utilizing the prompt library that Microsoft has available. If in doubt, click about and you will probably find some fun and fascinating information. Now, specifically, I'm actually going to ask Copilot to catch me up over the last 3 weeks, specifically on myself and Sam and the work we've been doing on Copilot and sales. Now, this could be in the case that I've been on leave and I want to catch up on this particular project on what I've been doing, where I've been working, and bring myself up as fast as possible. The nice thing is, not only do I get the information provided to me, I also get the reference material that this is related to. As time moves on, those 3 weeks will obviously stand still in time for me. So if you want to be specific, you could type in January, February, or March. Now, I'm lucky in the marketing team. I have Sam, who's a firm and strong marketing manager here at Changing Social. So the good news is we are going to expand our team. While Sam is potentially on leave, I need to help the team in building a new job description for a senior marketing manager. Now, I don't have a marketing background, those who've potentially looked at me on LinkedIn. So I probably need just a little bit of help in understanding what my requirements are and building out, in this case, a job description. And we'll see why as this story evolves for marketing, because we're going to start stepping things up when we have a larger team. I would not have been able to put this together in anywhere near the speed that this has. So we can see senior marketing manager reporting to, unfortunately, it's picked up my role, but we'll go with it, and some key responsibilities, what they would bring to the role, some qualifications, but more importantly, it has utilized the job description and a blend of information from Changing Social. Now you can see is a blend of information from your company's job descriptions for similar roles and best practice from the web. It has taken the knowledge of us as a business, pulled in information from the web, and built this out to the best of its ability. It's a fascinating way of making a quick start for something that would have taken me a good 40 minutes to 45 minutes of research to make sure I'm hitting the key points. Now, we've gone out to market, we've been successful, and we've hired someone, which is fantastic news. And this now means we can do a host more marketing. And what I really want to do now is kick things up a notch so that we can start positioning ourselves in our market as a strong A, marketing capability, and B, making sure that we are as informed as possible in the market we operate and surfacing information that's useful to the marketing team, and then vice versa for keeping up with the pace of change. Social media, blog posts, LinkedIn, and staying on top of fresh and relevant content is a constant challenge, and making sure we're hitting the right points to our specific industry is also key. So what we're going to do is we're going to step things up to our first main prompt to start testing Copilot. And what we're going to use is, thankfully, Microsoft as an example. And this is an idea surrounding competitor analysis. Now, you will be in your respective industries, you'll have your respective curiosities and potentially even your competitors. And using Microsoft Copilot, I'm actually going to ask it to pull together a competitor analysis between Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. I want to know the key data points and market analysis as we're going to be offering our services direct to Microsoft customers. You'll see the prompt is quite concise and very specific. So I'm going to hit generate, and this should pull together a fairly detailed, but more importantly, well-structured report that supports me in my role of thinking about how I go to market for the services and offerings that we have here at Changing Social. The reason I want to understand the Amazon and Google landscape at the same time is this report helps me compare, contrast, and think about that swing state market where there might be a few people to be persuaded into the Microsoft landscape. And if they are curious but not yet decisive to move, I can think about who I'm targeting, how I'm targeting them, and bring them across into the new state of Microsoft. We'll give this a couple more seconds to run, and then we'll start to look about creating content to publish. How can we start thinking about marketing and content generation in a way that is keeping up with pace, is unique to us, but gives us a starter for 10 in terms of the material we want to create and put out. We start to see a fair amount of information coming onto the screen now. I'm just going to scroll up so we can do a quick review. We've got a high-level summary of this competitor analysis. We can see when it was created. We've got company overview. And again, it's concise, direct, and providing key information. We've got a SWOT analysis, and we'll likely start to see some, some implications and recommendations off the back of this. I can now review this, I can make suggestions to Sam and the marketing team, and we can start to infer decisions from this analysis. Now, as you can imagine, we would typically type in other names to this competitor analysis, and you can go even more specific. Over the last 6 months, deep dive into product X from provider Y, and you've got the power of the Copilot search and the consistency of write-up, and then you can drill further into some of this information. For example, you can take this 4-page 1100 word document and make it more simple, more specific, more concise. You can ask to regenerate again, and it will pull the similar information and reformat in a different way. And just one other quick tip, if I keep this, let's take a look at the financial company overviews. You can, I'm just going to grab these bullet points, take some information that you think is relevant and well structured and visualize as a table. There are multiple ways to manipulate information through Copilot as an assistant that makes the presentation of this material easier to digest. And we can see straight away, rather than reading these paragraphs, I get the company, the year it was founded, the revenue for the current area, the shares, market rate growth, etc. And this is where you can then start to see the information it's pulling. Do I want to refine it? We've currently got 2020 as a date. I wasn't specific enough in my prompt, so I could highlight this, ask the prompt again, and just put 2023 or 2024. Now, I said we would get into some content creation and some other potentially exciting elements. And what I'm going to do is just clear down the information we were currently handed. And I want to talk specifically about some actual marketing methodologies when I create materials. The idea of ADA as a marketing methodology to support me with a new and exciting office opening that's coming up. So I'm going to put that in as a press release for our new offering in keeping with the ADA marketing methodology. And you can be direct and specific with theory as well. You could ask it to act as a very experienced marketing manager who has an MBA, master's, or a university degree and is familiar with exact marketing methods. You can tell Copilot to use and then explain the marketing methods behind the information it's got. So let's see what happens. We should have the subtitles coming through when it comes to the content. We should start to see attention, which we've got, interest, which we've also got, and desire. And then finally, it should tidy up with an action, and it has. So it understands methodology. It understands the principles of the information we've asked it. And now I can take this framework and start to update and build from this starter of 10 with my specific content, my specific focus, and tailor all the relevant points such as XYZ and the phone numbers and the email addresses. Again, if your prompt is more specific and more tailored, such as an office in London, UK, or office and then the street address and postcode, it will include the information in what it writes, and then you can dive in and now make it appropriate for your business. That can be visually, that can be by tone, and that can then be tailored to the channel in which you want to publish. Sam and I were actually playing around the other day and thinking about some specific contents to get out when it comes to some of our marketing materials and social media. And I actually wanted to give it a bit of a test when it came to tweets. And I wanted to make sure, A, it hit the content limit. Does it know that there is a 280-ish limit for a tweet? And does it understand the concepts of the material I'm asking it? And is it capable of generating hashtags? Now, we'll let this run and see if it picks up Teams, Loop, Copilot, and Microsoft Meet. And if it has hit the character limitations or gone above. What we can start to see now is we've got hashtags coming to life. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distinct bullet points. And I'm just going to take the second one as an example. It says 34 words, but more specifically, we are 257 characters. So it has kept it within the limit of the character creation required to post this tweet. Now, some of you might be thinking, great, not groundbreaking here, and not necessarily the easiest, not necessarily the hardest task to set us away. So what we're going to try and do now is kick it up another notch. I'm going to ask it for a targeted email campaign, but I'm going to get a little more specific. We're launching a new email campaign with 3 distinct personas. It wants to be HR and finance, specifically around teams. And what I've just realized is it has dropped something in that copy paste. So HR, IT, and finance. So let's hit generate. We are hoping for 3 clearly defined campaigns, specifically to email. And by putting the idea of email, it will carry across a slightly more formal approach, unless we had taught it to be more casual. Whilst it processes this, we are then actually going to kick it up one more notch after this. So let's have a quick look then. So IT persona, looking pretty good. It is specific for Microsoft Teams, and it's pulled out the idea for IT of Power Automate, Endpoint Manager, a planner and quality dashboard. Seems pretty reasonable to me. From an HR perspective, we're looking at Teams best practice, we're looking at lives events, we're looking at work-life balance, and we're looking at forms, polls, and surveys. It's also pulled in the idea of praise and Viva topics. And then going down into the idea of finance, the fact that we can surface Power BI and Excel, we can create financial reports and collaborate in Teams meetings. So it has done a pretty good job of managing the content, understanding the persona, and pulling through the relevant features of our product, in this case Teams, and putting it direct to the finance or the HR or the IT persona. And if you think about your marketing goals and you make your ask of it specific, you can then start to take this particular material and refine it. Build on that quality, focus on the channels, focus on that value add that you can drive into this marketing campaign, where your time hasn't necessarily initially gone into getting the content up and running. I said we were going to kick this up a notch. So let me just jump into the prompt. I'm going to add, I require an English, French, and Spanish version of each email produced. I'm going to grab that as a prompt for the sake of ease and not getting everything on my screen at once. I'll go fresh. And now let's see how it goes with English, French, and Spanish. Now, it understood immediately that we need an English, French, and Spanish version. It started off, as we can see here, with the HR persona. It will usually take a few more seconds or minutes to then build this out for the languages. The language power in Copilot is phenomenal, and it's been building and building and building over the recent months. So let's have a look at what it will kick into next. We'll give it a couple of seconds again. Like I say, it's pulling through the language requirements, and from experience, it can take 1 or 2 attempts to get it spot on. After that, we will dive into something slightly more creative from a visual standpoint. Now, it's got itself ever so slightly confused. We can see it started off quite strong, the email for HR persona, and it started off quite well, but it's missed some of the format. And then it's done exactly the same, but not necessarily with a clear break. So if you weren't quick enough, you could be forgiven for not seeing that French starts from here. We'll go down a little bit and we'll see that it's finished off French and then moved into Spanish. And then it has started again from an email for IT. So it has got the general concept. I've just actually asked it to stop. What I would do in this particular example is I would ask it to regenerate. I'd ask it to try again, and it would probably come back in a more suitable formula. So let's take a little bit of a diversion, come back across to this idea of Copilot for web, and come across to web, GPT-4, and creative. I want to start using the power of the web interface with Copilot and specifically create me an image for our marketing campaign. Now, in the past, I've used a mixture of Google imagery, I've tried to use a mixture of other third-party products where AI had kind of been coming in, or reusing some applications where I've put a different brand, a different style, a different theme on top of the imagery that I want to create. This can often be even for internal, where I just want a nice little eye-catching piece of content, but I don't necessarily want to spend hours and hours recreating the wheel for something that exists. I asked it to create a sleek Microsoft Power App that has a yellow and black colorway theme. Now, those who spend more than 2 seconds looking at some of these images understand there are some quirks going on here, but as a concept, straight out of the box that you can then refine, I can now use some of this material to add a little bit of spice into some of the marketing materials, especially internally as well. And then you can get a little more open with some of the requirements that you've got. So create an image of people working in an open plan office using whiteboards and working out loud. Again, the idea of surfacing content quickly from an AI generator to add just that little bit of creative spark to your particular requirements. Whilst that's running, I'm going to prepare the idea of using Whiteboard as a marketing organizational tool. It's something we've been playing with a lot recently as the power in Whiteboard has significantly increased, and more importantly, has been boosted by the power of Copilot. There we go. We can see some quite good imagery straight off the bat, and you'll see we've got add some natural light, make sure it looks like collaborative and energetic, and include a diverse group of people within the image. These are all prompts that you can then take and refine this down and down and down until you get the material that's best suited for your need. Jumping into Whiteboard then. Now, this has actually been really fun over the past few weeks to play with. You'll see we have the Copilot button making an appearance in Whiteboard. I'm going to click Copilot once. I'm going to ask this, so suggest ideas and content. And I'm just going to put a prompt in. Provide me a 3-month content plan for webinars targeted on Microsoft technology. Going to ask it to go ahead and pull up some ideas. Nicely out the box, we've got Azure, Power BI, Teams, AI for machine learning. For me, great start. Thank you very much, insert. That has saved me a ton of time of creating individual cards. On top of that, I'm going to click Copilot again, suggest some more ideas, pull that in to provide me 6 webinar titles. This has pulled up the information we've already got, referenced the materials in the background, and now given me those webinar titles as well. Let me just grab this group. He says, bear with me, what's going on here? We should be able to move these around. There we go. Honestly, it wouldn't be a live demonstration if I got this right first time. Grab that. And now I'd like to move. There we go. We got there. We did grab one more card with it, but it's good enough for now. So it's starting to get a little bit messy. And if you've got 3 or 4 people working out loud in this space, and just for a quick reference, click the share button and add in your colleagues. So Sam Cooper in this particular example, bring your colleagues into this space. It lives in perpetuity. And if you've never been to Whiteboard before, all you need to do is whiteboard.microsoft.com. You will jump into your Whiteboard experience and you can see all the whiteboards you've created or been involved in. So it's getting a little messy. I want to categorize the information. It's highlighted everything here and just immediately, please sort this out. There's so much going on here. Please interrogate it and sort it for me. Fantastic. I've got my cloud solutions. I've got my collaborative tools, business apps, and the AI. For me, right now, that's great. I would like to keep it. I've got a neat area to work in now. And what's nice is I didn't have to spend hours dragging cards around this page. And those who've used Whiteboard know that it goes quite big. Every piece of white space can be used. Taking this then one step further and starting to interact with this in a slightly more productivity focused way, let's click Copilot, summarize and note my content. This has to be the best powerful add-in to Whiteboard over the past few months. We are now utilizing a loop component that is malleable across all of the tools in Microsoft, where I didn't have to type the notes, where we have an extract of the whiteboard being used, and now I can start to use loop to the fullest capability. I can link this page, I can add the access, and I can copy the content across to other areas, and I can start to use loop however I see fit. Top tip, / whatever you do, / in loop. You've got tables, checklists, bullets, etc. If you put a table in, and let's just say we've got person, and then we've got action, I can mention Sam, or bring Sam in and say, please review and sign off the ideas. Now, I would have to bring Sam into this because I haven't added him into the whiteboard, but I can instantly start managing actions here live in this whiteboard with a loop component that brings a huge amount of value very quickly. I was able to get ideas, I was able to categorize them, and if you have a huge whiteboard you're already using today, feel free to go in and click categorize. With that, I'm going to take a quick walk into our wonderful PowerPoint, because let's be honest, most of us use PowerPoint to share our ideas at the moment. We'll come back to interrogating this report in 2 seconds, but actually I have just been reminded of one thing in the background that I do want to show you before we hit time for today, and that is, outside of the idea of marketing, you can start using Copilot for your meetings. And if you're running brand campaigns, if you're running external ideas through an agency, if you're doing in-house communications, make sure Copilot's turned on. If it's your meeting, Copilot works for you and internally for your organization. So don't worry, Copilot won't start interacting with external people. Even if they've joined the meeting, Copilot is yours and yours alone if you own the meeting. And by own, I mean you as an organization. The reason I just want to call this out, once you've used Copilot in a meeting, 3 dots on the left-hand side, click that, type in Meet, M-E-E-T. You will be greeted by this application here. Make sure you pin it. Click recorded and type in the filter of the name of the person, the content of the meeting, or anything else that you know was in a meeting, and you will get granted your view powered by Copilot of your webinar, of your meetings summarized. You'll see here, there is a general summary provided of what Sam and I discussed. You'll also see here the follow-up tasks, and you'll see the talk tracks of who said what and when, and then you can take it even one step further and go into Copilot and ask specific questions. Not only that, that meeting experience with Copilot will provide you direct timestamp references to find the information directly related to your question. Super helpful, especially if you're doing a lot of actions. Top tip, if you're doing an action-based meeting, make sure you say, this is my action and I want it done by X date and I want it produced in a fashion. The more specific you are in the language you use, and it is worth stopping the meeting and saying, hey, Sam, please can you take that as an action? I need it by next Friday and I'd love it if you could email me. Be specific. It will help your Copilot notes and it will build the capability and trust you have in that Copilot for supporting you in meetings, reducing that meeting burden. So I just want to come across into PowerPoint because actually it has a huge creative potential for saving that initial heavy lift of new slides with new titles and new content slides, where actually your time and value comes from making those slides clear and presentable, adding the right talk tracks, making sure it flows correctly, and refining the content you want to position rather than necessarily the heavy build. 2 quick things before we go into it. If you have an existing template, make sure you've got a version open. Even if it's a document you want to override, make sure you've got it open, get a few slides up on the left-hand side. It will give you a slightly better experience when it creates materials because it has a reference template to play with. And then secondly, you can direct it to information that will support the creation of material. You'll see here, create a presentation utilizing the marketing analysis of Microsoft. It should have a clear sections to enable me to bring to life the key points and focus on analytics. To get that reference material, / and then type in the material that you need. So that's / and type in the file name, and it will reference that material to help build a stronger presentation for you. We'll give this a couple of seconds. It knows what it's after. It knows the information it's pulling from this specific Word document. And then it is, as you can see, generating the slides at quite a rapid rate. The bits that I like about being specific in a prompt for PowerPoint is you can ask the sections to be quite well tailored out of the box, and then you can go in and refine them as you see fit. For me, that 10 minutes of not having to add slides, not having to add specific titles, gives me the time back to then be more precise with my content. So not a bad intro slide. I'm happy with that, considering I didn't give it a template. We've got the idea of the products and services. We've got a slide per area, which is a good reflection of the marketing analysis. And I just want to see how we got on with the analytics. Okay, brilliant. It's extracted the data from that word on the analytics already done, and it's presented it in a great way for me to start moving forward and manipulating. You'll see that these slides here are all down the bottom, and my prompt did say key points and focus on analytics, and the focus on analytics has come after the right level of scene set. Now, you'll also have the opportunity to use Designer, and you can click Designer and recreate some of those slides using the power of the Designer tool. I know we're tight on time. I'm going to try and wrap this in 30 seconds. I just want to show two quick things. Firstly, if you have a PDF report, you can open it in Edge. You can use Copilot in Edge, and you can get precise and ask this to interrogate the report. Get specific with your prompts, get exact with what you need, and it will utilize the Copilot in Edge to interrogate your PDF. And then finally, one just final piece is the power of Microsoft Forms with Copilot. I'm asking it to create me a customer form to capture feedback and ideas. The last hurdle. We'll do a quick refresh. We'll just double check to see if we can squeeze out one more prompt. The building of a form is so powerful. We will have to park it there. I will try one more time as we go, but Sam, I'm conscious we're on time. Over to you for any questions.
Of course. So yes, we do have a few questions that have come through. So thank you to those for delivering those. Question number one from Vineet. Is there a free version of Copilot I can use in Word?
That is actually quite a good question. Unfortunately, no, there is an M365 license requirement for Copilot in Word. However, I would recommend going to copilot.microsoft.com and using the potential Bing or Copilot in Edge, rather, is what I should have said. Sorry, Copilot in Edge. Open Edge, Copilot in the top right-hand side, and just see if you've got access, because you might be able to use the embedded version to help tailor some material that you could then paste into Word. Would be my initial top tip. Try.
Great, thank you, Ed. And where should I look to enable Copilot? I opened up Word but can't find Copilot in the ribbon yet.
Oh, yeah, good question. So have a quick chat, if possible, with your service desk and IT team. If there's a few Copilot licenses, they will be able to assign you one, hopefully. If not, maybe give them a little nudge and say, hey, I've seen the power of Copilot and I'd love to give it a try. I think it can do wonders for productivity and time saving. Give them a little nudge. They may even be able to get you a Copilot license. It can't hurt to ask.
Fantastic. And just a few more questions now, Ed. How does Copilot create the summary for the work? Does it pull the information from the task and planner? This was referring to Meet, I believe.
Oh, yeah, good question. So in Meet, it understands the transcript. So if you're in meeting and you've hit record, it will interrogate the transcript and understand the content and concepts that have been mentioned. And it picks up on key points of topic, key repeated words, and then extracts what it thinks is a valid summary and other actions that have been mentioned. In terms of otherwise, it uses a form of indexing in the background. So when you ask it, what have I done over the last 3 weeks, or I want to create a summary of my work in the last 3 weeks for a handover, it references through indexing your files and folders that you have access to. So using email or chat or Teams as an example in SharePoint, pulls that information together, puts it to your specific prompt using some crazy large language model stuff that I don't truly understand, and then publishes it in a understandable manner.
Great, thanks, Ed. And we've got 2 more questions here, and I will take those. So question number 1, how can I tailor Copilot to specific marketing campaigns? And another question here, I'm sorry, but why should anyone trust this SWOT analysis? So both really good points. And I think it's really important to remember that the output that Copilot generates is only as good as its prompt, right? So, for example, I myself in marketing, if I'm using Copilot to create a new marketing campaign or a specific strand on a specific channel, then I would input Copilot with the specific details that apply to that campaign. So whether that be product details, campaign goals, target demographics, and all that lovely stuff to help Copilot help me in generating that perfect response. I could honestly go on about this for several hours, but I'm very conscious of the time now. We are already a few minutes over. So if anyone does have any other questions that they'd like to take offline, please do email myself or Ed after the session, and we will be happy to assist with any of your queries. To find our email address, scroll to the top of the Q&A window, and you will find our addresses there. So I think we can all agree that Ed has done a fantastic job in showcasing Copilot's capabilities. However, we know adopting this new technology can be a rather daunting task. So if you would like to take advantage of an initial free discovery call with our Copilot experts, you can do this by clicking the link in the chat, which will take you to a form, or by simply scanning the QR code on screen. So please do feel free to fill in that form. We will reach out to you as soon as possible to see how we can support you on your AI journey. In addition to that free discovery call, we will also send you a handy guide on Copilot prompting do's and don'ts, and finally our in-depth Copilot one-pager. In addition to that as well, we are sending out the recording to all attendees of this session. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much for your time today and for being so engaging with us. And from myself and Ed, have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. We hope you found this webinar useful, and thanks again for your time. Bye-bye.